Hey there. So I'm gonna jump right in. When you sign in or if you are watching, please say hello. And if you have any questions along the way, I would love to answer them. Hi, Mike. Um, I'm going to just tell you my story. I think it's important that we start sharing our stories and our traumas. I feel like we are often expected to just shoulder them and act like they didn't happen. So I really wanted to take this time to really talk about my own trauma and really normalize that process, because I found that trying to hold everything in and be strong really sunk me, and I've gained so much more control over my life in that time, and since I've really started to embrace my story and my journey. So I am going to, because it is Infancy Loss and Miscarriage Awareness Month, I did have a miscarriage. And so I'm going to go through that story. And again, like if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to jump in. So I like to call the spring of 2016 my own personal series of unfortunate events. It was a super happy time in my life. We were getting ready to get married. We had stags and stagettes, and one of my friends was getting married, and, all these great things were happening. And then a few weeks before our wedding was really when the series of unfortunate events started to hit. My grandpa got sick and ended up passing away right before our wedding, which was really difficult. We got into a really bad car accident 3 weeks before our wedding. Different things like that, but none of them compared to losing a baby. So Chris and I had decided after our stag and stagette that the wedding was close enough that we could start trying, because we both really, like, having children was something we had both dreamed about. So we ended up getting pregnant actually probably right before the wedding. When we were on our honeymoon, I kept saying, something doesn't feel the same. And so we had planned to actually go to the hot tub, and I said, I just want to make sure. So we ended up going to the drugstore across the street from the hotel. We took the pregnancy test, and it was positive. We were super surprised. We didn't think it would happen that quickly. And so the next day we went out and we got gifts for our family so we could tell them when we got home. So we got home, I did my first few doctor's appointments, we had our first ultrasound. I was exhausted, but I was feeling okay. So we had decided to announce early. We were 8 weeks along, everything seemed to be going well. I was feeling really good, I was trying to be really careful. And everything like that. And so we announced. No big deal. I mean, it's such big news. Like, I really hate that women feel a need to hold on to it for so long, and that we feel a need to, not share what's going on in our lives because we're afraid of looking weak. So we announced, and a week later, I started to spot. And at that point, I thought, oh, maybe it's just implantation bleeding. I kind of shrugged it off. It was really late at night when it started, and it continued to get worse. So I had said to Chris, it's probably nothing. Let's just, go about our day. We went out to Grenfell to my friend's birthday. And that's when the bleeding really started to increase. So from there, we went to the hospital. We drove back to Regina, and we actually ended up going straight to the hospital just to see if they could tell us anything. Or, at that point, there was probably nothing they could do, but you always have that hope. So we went to the hospital. They refused to do an ultrasound, which is what it is. They checked my cervix. They said, no, your cervix is closed. So you're good, and sent us on our way. But they thank you. So they had given us a referral to the early pregnancy assessment clinic or whatever. And so on Monday, so that was Saturday night, so we had to wait till Monday. Saturday night, shortly after we went to bed, I got up and went to the bathroom, and I am pretty sure that is when I lost the baby. I'm pretty sure I saw it. I'm not 100% sure. And so it's really morbid to say, but I essentially am pretty sure I flushed my fetus. Morbid, I know, but there's no other way to say it. And so I spent the whole day Sunday in bed with my feet up on pillows thinking, oh, maybe if it's like coming loose or whatever, it'll like reattach. It was gone already, I'm pretty sure, but that was my thought process because I couldn't rationalize the fact that this baby was gone already. And so from there, we waited for Monday, and Monday came, and we actually got to the clinic before they had even gotten my referral. We went and met with a nurse who said, you know, I got to make a plan for you. I'm going to get you an ultrasound time. I'll do this, I'll do that. You know, she just was going to take care of me. Now, this was where I kind of got kicked in the pants a little bit, but we were in the waiting room, and a nurse came back, and they called Megan, and nobody else moved. So we got up, and we went with the nurse. So the nurse said, oh, like, you know, how are you feeling? What brings you here? We answered all the questions, and then she looked at us really, really confused. And we were like, well, like, what's up? And she's like, well, if you're having all these concerns, why are we aborting? So they had mixed me up with somebody else in the waiting room who was named Megan, who was actually there for an abortion. So to add insult to my injury and all of my anxiety, I knew who the abortion nurse was, and every time she came to get somebody, I knew exactly what was happening. And I think deep down I knew that I had lost my baby already, because I kept saying to Chris, if only these people knew, I would like pay them for their baby right now. So anyway, we got our ultrasound time. We went down. We were actually an hour early for our ultrasound time, and there was nobody there. So we got right in. And so they don't say much to you when you do that. They, you know, they did an internal, everything like that. And, you know, I still didn't quite give up hope. I Googled everything that could have explained the bleeding. I am Dr. Google. It drives my doctors crazy, but I Google everything. Even when I got pregnant with Jake, my obstetrician kept telling me, stop Googling, because I do. I have to know. I'm a researcher. So then we got put into a waiting room. And when we got to that waiting room, we waited. And we waited, and we waited. And Chris went to the front desk to ask, and it turned out that the radiologist forgot to attach our ultrasound. Our radiologist forgot to attach our ultrasound, and we ended up having to wait even longer until the radiologist got back from lunch. So that's when finally, after about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the room of me saying, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And, you know, I read about this one time, and trying to keep up the hope, the doctor came in and told us that there was no baby. And so, you know, you're in shock. There's nothing to explain. You just sit there. And so then he has to give you your options. So I had the options of doing a DNC or waiting to see if it would pass. And so I waited, mainly just because I was pretty sure it was mostly going to pass anyway, if most of it was gone already, like he had said. So I waited, and I took a week off of work, and I didn't get off the couch. I got up, I sat on the couch, and I sulked, and I ate junk, and I did what I needed to do. Whew. So a week later, I went in, I got a second ultrasound, and I had the most amazing ultrasound tech. She was brave enough to share with me that she had also had a loss. And she held my hand and, you know, did all that wonderful stuff. I don't know if I would have made it through that without her. Holy crap. Whew. So, thankfully, everything had passed. And so then it was waiting to be able to try again. It was bleeding, it was cramps, it was all of that. So, you know, I heard all the typical things too, you know, at least you can get pregnant and all that stuff. But I've known people who've had more than one miscarriage, and I kept thinking, what if I can get pregnant, but I can't carry a baby? And what if this? And what if that? And again, I went to Dr. Google and I Googled everything. I tried to find a reason why it happened, everything like that. And I really struggled with that because there was no reason. It happens. You'll never know. So we had to move on. We had bought a house, so we had to get ready to move. We eventually had to get back to daily life, which was a struggle. At that time, I shared an office with somebody who was very pregnant. I didn't quite work in my office for a couple weeks. I don't know if I ever explained that to her, so if I didn't, Amber, if you're watching, I'm sorry. It was so hard to be near women who are having these beautiful, healthy pregnancies. So I went about my life, and one of the hardest things for me was that we wanted to get pregnant again, but I didn't lose the symptoms right away. So when we were painting our house to move in, I kept thinking, my sense of smell is really strong. Like maybe I'm pregnant again, because I stopped bleeding a few weeks after. And I mean, when you're done bleeding, you're essentially good to go. Every month, I'm pretty sure, until we actually got pregnant again, I thought I was pregnant. So then, come October, I was losing kind of hope a little bit, I guess. I mean, it had only been 3 months, but I mean, it was such a long ride. So I decided I needed to start to do other stuff. So I signed up to see a trainer at work. I had applied for a promotion, different stuff like that. I got the promotion, and then the next day I found out I was pregnant with Jake. So that was kind of exciting, I guess. Lots of big changes, but I didn't expect it to happen again because I just felt so defeated. Now, I'm going to fast forward 3 years. I've had 2 healthy pregnancies, but I've had a lot of mental health issues. And part of that is I don't think I ever faced it head on. It happened and then it was done. Some people never ever talked about it again. And I think that's a big problem with this type of trauma, is that we experience it and then we're just supposed to move on. Like it never happened. We're not supposed to talk about it. It's all taboo and stuff. And I kind of just think it's bullshit. Sorry, but it's bullshit. We need to be able to share our experiences. We need to be able to learn from each other. We need to be able to support each other. And once I was able to face the unfortunate events of 2016, which included my miscarriage, I was able to really feel like I was finally moving on. I think I held on to that for the last 3 years or so because I didn't want to face it. And so one of the things I've learned is that I had to accept not only that it happened, but how it changed me. Because one of the things with a miscarriage and with stillborn babies is that you never get to meet them. You never get to know what their cry sounded like. You never get to know any of that. So you have a hard time getting closure. And that was something I think I struggled with, but didn't realize I was struggling with until I allowed my mental health to start to heal. I kind of lost my train of thought there. So I guess where I struggled was that it happened, and then a couple months later, it was business as usual, and I wanted my life to go back to normal. And that's one of the concepts I've really been working on in my life lately, is that normal is evolving and we need to evolve with it. So when shit gets hard, we have to accept that our normal is changing. So I had to accept that I was going to be terrified in pregnancy, and I had to accept that I would never know who that child was. They would be a part of me forever, but I wouldn't know anything about them. And once I started my journey into wellness, which is kind of what my page is all about, I was really able to start start looking at the past and accepting what had happened and letting myself move on, but still owning it. So this happened. I'm never going to know why. I'm never going to get full closure, but I need to accept it. And accepting it was kind of my big first step into moving forward. I've had a lot of loss and a lot of trauma, especially in that spring, that I didn't fully, I don't think I allowed myself to feel it all and heal properly. I often say that if it wouldn't have been for our wedding, I don't know how I would have made it through. So that was what sparked some of my new mantras, especially today I choose joy. It's something I tell myself all the time. There'll be more about it next week. But I've really started to understand my trauma and how it's shaped who I am now. Which brings me into next week's special announcement. So what I'm going to be doing next week is I will be launching a series of videos, and they're all to do with what wellness is to me and how I'm achieving it in my life. So I've kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg here when I talk about accepting my trauma and learning how to move forward. And so next week, you're just going to get a glimpse every day. My videos are only about a minute long, but just a glimpse every day into what I'm doing to promote wellness physically and mentally for myself, because I did get into a very, very dark place where I constantly felt like I was drowning and failing and I wasn't good enough. And I finally gotten to a point where I have passion in my life again. I'm excited for the future. Holy cow. Sorry. And so I want to share how I got there with everybody so that if anybody else is struggling, they can find their way too. So I'm super excited for next week and the video series. I hope that it's informative for other people. And then next Friday, I'm going to end it off with another Go Live where we can tie it all together. Where we can tie it all together and really have a deep conversation. And if you guys want to ask questions next week, that would be awesome, and just contribute. Yeah, and so next week we will be doing a wellness week, and I'm super duper excited about it, and I'm super duper excited to get started on continuing to share my journey with everybody and hopefully helping somebody somehow. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything like that? Okay, perfect. Well, I hope you tune into my videos next week, and we will see you next Friday at the same time, because that's when Chris games. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me in private messenger as well if you have something you weren't comfortable saying. So I hope everybody has a good night, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.